Emmylou Harris. Born April 2nd, 1947 in Birmingham, Alabama, has long stood as one of the most influential and beloved voices in American music. At 78, her legacy feels both towering and intimate, defined not by spectacle, but by sincerity. Raised in a military family, Harris learned resilience early. Her father, a Marine Corps officer and former prisoner of war in Korea, modeled endurance and quiet courage. These qualities would later echo through her music, which often balances vulnerability with resolve. Though academically gifted, Harris found her true calling not in the classroom, but in song. While studying drama at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, she was drawn irresistibly toward folk music, inspired by artists like Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, and Pete Seeger. That pull toward authenticity and emotional truth would guide every step of her journey. From the beginning, Harris sang not to impress, but to connect, and that instinct became the foundation of a remarkable career. Greenwich Village and the Long Road to Recognition. In the late 1960s, Emmylou Harris followed the call of music to New York City, settling into the creative crucible of Greenwich Village during the height of the folk revival. Like many young artists of the era, she lived modestly, performing in coffee houses, juggling odd jobs, and learning how to survive on belief as much as income. These years were marked by uncertainty, but also by deep artistic growth. In 1969, she released her debut album, Gliding Bird, a project that revealed promise but failed to bring immediate success. Around the same time, Harris was navigating early adulthood, motherhood, and the emotional weight of responsibility while still chasing an unpredictable dream. Rather than breaking her spirit, those challenges sharpened her sense of purpose. She learned patience, humility, and the value of persistence. The Village years did not make her famous, but they made her strong, and they prepared her for the moment when the world would finally hear her clearly. Gram Parsons and a Musical Awakening. The most transformative chapter of Emmylou Harris's early career began in the early 1970s when she met Gram Parsons, a visionary artist who immediately recognized her extraordinary voice. Parsons, already known for his work with the Byrds and the Flying Burrito Brothers, invited Harris to sing harmony with him, sparking a partnership that would shape the future of country rock. Together they recorded GP 1973 and Grievous Angel 1974, albums now regarded as landmarks in American music. Harris's crystalline harmonies brought emotional depth and elegance to Parsons' songs, while he introduced her to the richness of traditional country music. Their collaboration was brief but profound. When Parsons died suddenly in 1973, Harris was devastated. Yet out of that loss came determination. She often described him as her musical soulmate, and in honoring his vision, she found her own. His influence did not end with his life. It became part of her voice, her choices, and her future. Stepping into her own light. After Gram Parsons' death, Emmylou Harris stepped forward as a solo artist with renewed clarity and purpose. Signing with Reprise Records, she released Pieces of the Sky in 1975, an album that introduced her to a wide audience and established her signature style. Her ability to honor tradition while sounding entirely her own set her apart. Songs like If I Could Only Win Your Love showcased her gift for emotional interpretation, proving she could inhabit a song fully, whether it was a classic or a contemporary piece. Success followed quickly with albums such as Elite Hotel, Luxury Liner, and Quarter Moon in a 10-Cent Town. Each release reinforced her reputation as an artist of rare taste and integrity. Rather than chasing trends, Harris curated her work with care, blending country, folk, and rock into something timeless. She was not reinventing roots music. She was reminding listeners why it mattered. Collaboration as a way of life. One of Emmylou Harris's defining qualities has always been her openness to collaboration. She surrounded herself with exceptional musicians, including members of the Hot Band, such as Rodney Crowell and guitarist Albert Lee, creating a sound that was both precise and soulful. Her partnerships extended across genres and generations, from Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash to Neil Young and Bob Dylan. Perhaps most famously, she joined forces with Dolly Parton and Linda Ronstadt for the Trio projects, producing some of the most celebrated vocal harmonies in modern country music. These collaborations were never about ego. They were about conversation, listening, and shared respect. Harris had a rare ability to elevate others while remaining unmistakably herself. Younger artists like Gillian Welch, Buddy Miller, and Ryan Adams found in her not only a collaborator, but a mentor. Through these creative bridges, Harris helped ensure that American roots music remained alive, evolving, and deeply human. Risk, reinvention, and emotional honesty. Even after decades of success, Emmylou Harris never allowed herself to become comfortable or predictable. Her artistry has always been driven by emotional honesty rather than expectation. This spirit was especially evident in Wrecking Ball, 1995, produced by Daniel Lanois, which marked a bold departure from her earlier sound. The album embraced atmospheric textures and a more experimental approach, introducing Harris to a new generation of listeners. Yet despite its modern edge, the heart of her music remained unchanged. Her songs continued to explore love, loss, longing, and redemption with unflinching sincerity. Harris understood that vulnerability was not weakness, it was connection. By taking risks later in her career, she proved that artistic relevance does not come from reinvention alone, but from truth. She followed curiosity rather than nostalgia, and in doing so, she showed that growth is not about leaving the past behind, but carrying it forward with intention. Love, marriage, and the lessons of time. Emmylou Harris's personal life has been marked by complexity, reflection, and growth. Married 3 times, she has spoken with remarkable honesty about love and partnership, once describing herself as a really good ex-wife. Her first marriage to fellow folk musician Tom Slocum coincided with the early years of her career and the birth of her daughter, Hallie. Balancing motherhood with life on the road forced Harris to make difficult, deeply considered choices about stability and care. Her later marriages to producer Brian Ahern and songwriter Paul Kennerly were shaped by shared creativity, but ultimately ended as well. Rather than viewing these chapters with regret, Harris has framed them as essential teachers. Each relationship offered insight into herself, her needs, and the costs of life and music. Through it all, she remained grounded, choosing honesty over bitterness. Her reflections reveal a woman who values understanding over blame and growth over permanence. Compassion beyond the stage. Beyond her music, Emmylou Harris has quietly devoted herself to causes rooted in compassion and responsibility. A lifelong advocate for animal welfare, she founded Bonaparte's Retreat, a rescue organization dedicated to saving dogs from euthanasia. Her activism extends to environmental protection, disaster relief, and support for veterans, causes that reflect both her upbringing and her values. Harris has never been drawn to loud advocacy. Instead, she leads through consistent action and sincerity. This same gentleness defines her public presence. She has used her platform not to dominate conversations, but to amplify care. In an industry often driven by visibility, Harris has chosen purpose. Her humanitarian work mirrors her music, thoughtful, steady, and rooted in empathy. It is not separate from her artistry, but an extension of it. She believes fundamentally that connection matters, whether through song, service, or simple kindness. Remembering John Denver. For years, fans speculated about the depth of Emmylou Harris's friendship with John Denver, a fellow artist whose music shared her reverence for sincerity and nature. In recent reflections, Harris has spoken gently about Denver as a person rather than a legend. She has described him as genuine, consistent, and deeply committed to his beliefs. Their occasional collaborations and shared stages revealed a natural musical harmony, one grounded in mutual respect rather than ambition. Singing together, she has recalled, felt effortless, like two voices finding a shared breath. Denver's death in 1997 was a profound shock, one that lingered long after the headlines faded. Harris has acknowledged that loss without dramatizing it, noting instead the quiet absence he left behind. What she carries forward is not sorrow alone, but gratitude for his authenticity, his love of the natural world, and his reminder that music can be both gentle and powerful. A legacy that continues to breathe. As Emmylou Harris reflects on her life at 78, her story feels less like a career summary and more like a living conversation. Her honors, 14 Grammy Awards, induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame, and a Lifetime Achievement Award stand as recognition, but not definition. What truly defines her is the trust listeners place in her voice. Harris has never chased immortality. She has chased meaning. By staying true to herself, she has created work that outlives trends and continues to resonate across generations. In speaking about John Denver, about love, loss, and music, she is not closing a chapter, but offering perspective. Her legacy is not only in recordings, but in the permission she gives others to be authentic. Through her songs and her life, Emmylou Harris reminds us that beauty does not shout. It listens, endures, and stays.